Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back for another round of the Rwagnation League F2 feature race and sprint race here in Baku. I'm Ben Raggan McConnell, and joining me in the caster desk for the first time is actually Furball. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I am great, thank you. Much better than the track looking at it, as it's looking pretty damp. I'm not going to lie, it's looking pretty damn wet. We're currently waiting for the drivers to choose their setups as it stands. Obviously, it's going to change a little bit due to the fact that we have got a one-shot wet qualifying, but they will have to stick with the setups throughout the sprint race and the feature race. It's going to be exciting stuff.
They're definitely going to hope that it's not going to rain in any of the two races, because it's going to be painful. Very painful.
It will indeed. So, who do you want to go on board with for the hot lap?
I want to see how Max is doing, because he promised to do a shoey should he win any of the two races.
Well, so if he wins just one of the two, he's going to do a shoey?
I think so. I think that was the deal he made with himself.
I like the sound of that. Alright, well, I guess we're on board with him now throughout as we are doing the one-shot qualifying. So he's now going up towards the turn 3. And the thing is with this one, it's really deceiving just how early you actually have to brake. You need to brake, yeah, he's already broke much earlier than I would have necessarily done, but I would have also ended up in the wall, so it's no surprise that he's still going strong. Here he is now. Go on.
The worst thing about the F2 cars is that as soon as you lock up, you're just going straight, and it's so hard to actually break the lockup.
Yeah, it can easily chuck yourself into the wall, damage your wing, and these cars have already not got a great deal of aerodynamics. So, especially with the weight that they've got under them as well, it's so easy to lock up. And I think that might be an invalidated lap there. Oh, he's spun it, so it might be.
Well, let's watch Vanya then, my steward colleague. Let's see how he's doing. He was quite frustrated with his performance last week, from what I remember. But maybe he's going to be able to do better this time.
I mean, currently he's P2, chasing Racebug, who we know is actually really quite good in these F2 cars. So it's, he did have a bit of a rough time last week out, but in particular, Vanya, who has only made his appearance last week out, it was great to see him back, and he's really starting to make a name for himself again. But yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Vanya managed to get P8 in the feature race last week, so he started from pole in the sprint race, and I think he was leading throughout most of the race, just to be caught in the end by default. But maybe he's going to have an overall better weekend this time.
Maybe, right. So Racebook is currently still sat in P1 with default hot on his heels. Is Racebook going to be able to take pole in this one-shot qualifying session? It's looking likely as he's going to cross the line. Quiet margin as well. Default will come second. Absinthe takes a solid third place with Dark Demise in fourth. Vanya comes fifth. Noosa in sixth. Didn't catch who was in seventh. But we do have two retirees, one being Max and the other one being Nixana.
So I'm going to have to say that default in P2 definitely doesn't surprise me too much. I had a quick look at the time trial scoreboards, or leaderboards rather, before this qualifying session, and default was doing quite well. So I think he's going to have a good chance of actually winning this weekend.
Yeah. Indeed, he does. Right, so Racebug is sitting on pole today with default in second, Absinthe third, Dactymize fourth, Vanya fifth, Noosa sixth, Piloto seventh, Nixana, Overspeed, and Max all didn't get to set a time too, which just couldn't set one through retiring, and Max was the only one to invalidate. And the times are very spread out in these wet conditions. There's no sort of like indicator to sort of say how this is going to go, especially now as we go into the feature race, which is obviously going to be the longer of the two races. I mean, this is going to be a very dry session, so anything you just saw in the qualifying, if any of the drivers decided that they were going to go for a solid wet setup, and it all depends really how it's going to be for the actual sprint race as well. Well, I guess we're going to have to see, as the drivers are now on the grid, just choosing their race strategies and the tyres that they're going to go for. They do have free reign of tyres, as they obviously was wet in the qualifying. They're not exactly going to be using the wet tyres in the race, so we'll see what they choose. We might get a little bit of a sort of variance, but I'll wait until the tyres come up, and then I'm going to ask you, Furball, for your top 3 prediction for the end of this race.
Sweet. Well, okay. Actually, we're right on the grid. And
Any guesses? Any guesses? I mean, they're all on mediums. So it's going to be really difficult to sort of say, oh, well, these got the better strategy or whatever or anything like that. Because, I mean, they can take the mediums all the way to the end of this race. It's literally 7 laps. But some drivers do tend to try that sort of soft run and see if they can really commit and get themselves much further upfield. But they're all going for the mediums, really trying to just take themselves to the end without any issues. Default was the kind of guy who, last week out, decided to do the harder of the compounds and made it go further. I'm not sure if he's... I mean, the thing about Baku is it's so easy to get damage. Turn 1. You know, I mean, we've already seen a mistake there. Was that Dark Demise? No, it was Absinthe. Absinthe made a mistake there. Or was it No, it was Vanya, sorry. Vanya was the one who made the mistake. No damage on his car currently, but yeah, it's so easy to make a mistake and just lose some wing.
Yeah, I entirely agree. And obviously, once you lock up with these things, and if you do go straight into the wall, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, considering that a pit stop is not necessary, and you're going to fall back quite a bit should you get damaged.
Yeah, exactly that. You don't really want to get into that pit stop scenario. You know, the chance of pulling it back on this track is so difficult. I mean, you do have the added benefit of there's always this track has a high record of DNFs in it. You know, it's somewhere you quite often will just see the drivers lose it, especially in this corner here where Vanya is. Oh, he almost ended up in the wall himself. But it's so easy to just lose the car, and you can take the car nice and easily around the track in hope that somebody else DNFs. You can gain a free space, but you know, you can't always bank on that. These are some quick drivers, and they are consistent drivers for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. And also, should you get damaged, at least you can go into the softs and maybe try and get the fastest lap, which will give you an additional 2 points, obviously. But yeah, as you said, you really don't want to be forced to do a pit stop.
No, you really, really would not. Right, here we go now in the little run-up back to the pit box. Sorry, the grid box, not the pit box. Get themselves prepped and ready for this race. Racebug will be leading this straight off the bat unless he has a terrible start, and we might be seeing Default make a good move around the inside, or maybe even see Absinthe make a move around the outside. The one place you don't really want to be on this track is the outside, as it's so easy to get caught up in anyone else's mess and misery. But we are about to get underway with this Grand Prix as soon as we get Max into his box. He's very far back.
Well, gives us quick time to do some quick predictions. Who are your top 3?
Oh, okay. Top 3. It's hard for me to look away from Default. He is very quick, especially in these F2 cars. I think he's going to take P2. Sorry, P1. I want Dark Demise to get a P2, and I think if Max can pull it off, he'll get a good solid result. So, lights are on. As soon as they go out, it's going to be race time here in Baku, and immediately it's a slow start, and I think Default might actually jump a place here. He's not. Racebug has managed to secure himself and keep himself all lined together. Further backfield, they need to make sure that there's no damage overall. And there's a little bit of wobble there. That is Absinthe, who's had a big mistake there. Just lost the back end, and that was it. Off towards the wall. He has lost his right end plate, so turning left is going to be a problem.
And Overspeed just essentially drove into the side of Max, and Max is not going to be happy about that. In turn 2.
Yep, turn 2, further upfield. How's everything faring up? It's got a little bit more damage as Nixana goes into the back of Noosa. Was not expecting him to be able to break that well, and that was why he lost that front left end plate. Some more. He's got no end plates on that car. Nixana is going to have a really tough time going through both the ping pongs. We'll keep an eye out and see if he manages to keep it alive, as Dark Demise is right here on the back of Racebug. It's looking good for him right now. If he can keep this up, he might actually be able to take a good solid P2 by the end of the home straight.
And Default, obviously, in P1, he's currently loving life. Already 1.5 seconds ahead of P2. And I think your prediction is going to be quite valid at this point. And I would have totally agreed with you. Oh, actually, Default with quite a wobble there. Out of the castle section. Manages to keep it, though. Although Racebug is able to catch up now.
Yeah, I mean, he's brought it down to just over a second. So Racebug is now in a position where he can sort of mount up an attack. Obviously, you do have to bear in mind that it's lap 3 when we get to see DRS. There is scrapping going on further downfield. As you can see, Vanya, big wing damage there. I don't know who that was. I think that was Piloto further backfield. But look at this little scrap.
Huge accident between Nixana and Vanya. Nixana was overtaking Vanya into the downhill turn and just punted into the wall, which triggered all this other stuff that happened.
Oh, big off! That's Max, who's gone off into the wall again. I don't know what happened exactly, but it looked like there was contact with someone else on the track. So that's 2 of the drivers now. They've got 0 front wing. Max will need to get himself back into the pits. We're starting to see the pit wall light up. Absinthe, Vanya, Nixana, and we will see Max in there as well. That's 4 drivers out of the 10 that are going to be... Oh, that was almost Max buried into the pit wall, but he's still together. And I am looking at the front of the grid, and you can see Default has actually had the lead taken away from him. Racebook is just 7/10 away from Default. This could easily change at the drop of a hat. And Dr. Mai is actually right on the back of Racebook. This could literally take it to the end of this lap. We might see something happen from Dr. Mai. Oh, big mistake there from Noosa. That's the left end plate gone. He's now going to be in real trouble throughout this Grand Prix.
And Racebook with huge accident, huge mistake there. Probably lost the back, and now Default is just taking off and able to restart his previous lead. And what I was going to say is that Noosa, I think he already had like damage to his right front end plate on the front wing, so
okay.
He's probably going to be forced to do a pit stop now.
Yeah, more than likely. I mean, the thing is, the end plates make such a huge difference to fast cornering speeds. You need them just to be able to pierce through the air and actually really rotate the car a bit. Dr. Myers had a little bit of a moment earlier in Castle where he slammed the wheels into the wall, still kept himself going, and still no damage on the car. So it's more like a warning shot really to him, just to make sure that he keeps it all together. There is big scrapping going on further backfield, as you can see. Nixander and Max,
yes.
They are the 2 most relentless drivers when it comes to overtakes, and Max will just see a gap, go for it no matter what the outcome is, and looking for it now. This is not the area you want to be going for a dive down the inside, especially as we approach Castle. Nixander's going to need to defend smartly as he comes through the exit of Castle, because this could all end very badly for one of them if one makes a mistake.
I think Max might have got the much better exit out of the Castle section now, and yes, he's going to take Nixana on the inside, or is he? Oh, it's so close.
There was almost serious issues between the 2 of them. Now Nixander's trying to go around the outside. He's just kept himself out of the wall. It was very tight between the 2 of them, but that is exactly what we like to see. Very close-knit racing. A little bit of elbows getting out as we went through mini ping pong, but now we're coming up to the real thing. This is going to be the actual ping pong. For these drivers, they won't have DRS on this lap as they are still on lap 2. But the race leader and everyone else in front of him. Oh, that's Nixana into both walls. That's another end plate gone on both sides of the car. He is now in some serious trouble. Will have enough wing to continue if he wants to, but he's going to lose a lot of time. And I think, yeah, he's coming into the pits. He might even hit the wall. Is he still how is he still going? That was a big hit into the wall. He should be out. Interesting. All right, so Default race lead by 4 seconds. The gap has been pulled apart very nicely there. Racebug is going to have to try and figure something out, but I mean, he's fine in terms of the gap between him and Dark Demise. It's 2 seconds separating those 2, and then 4 seconds for Noosa. So the gaps are really starting to spread out as we come through. It's now just going to be a question of survival, really.
And Racebug just punts into the wall on the downhill turn. End plate gone, and he's going to be slower now.
Yeah, Dark Demise is actually bringing that gap down already, and I think he's still got full wing. Let me just double check. Yes, he does, for now at least. Commentator's curse will mean that he's about to lose it in ping pong without a doubt. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1. That looks like Nixana. It might be an Nixana issue. Yeah, wow, he's very much beached on that curb there. Does he have wing damage again? I think he does. That left end plate looks like it's damaged again. The
amount of front wing damage in this entire race, even though we only have 10 people driving right now, is insane.
Yeah, exactly. ART really need to check if they have enough front wings to last. This is Noosa's out. I can only imagine that's going to be in Castle. It's not. Noosa's somehow... I think he's done it in the pits.
Yes, I think he did. Indeed.
Now, did he crash into the pits, or did he just retire from the session in the pits? That's the real question. I'm
not entirely sure.
I'm on board with Absinthe now as he's coming up towards the pit lane. I want to see if we can see any remains of debris or anything.
I think there was part of front wing there, but it's gone now, so I'm not entirely sure.
Interesting. Well, the race carries on. We are down a driver. We almost lost another one earlier with Nixana almost burying himself into the wall. But the race lead is still sat with Default after a really good, solid start. Biggest winner is currently Overspeed, who is sat there in P5, 4 places gained. Very closely followed is Piloto, who's getting 3 places, but that could change if Overspeed manages to pull out some magnificent time. And the person to keep an eye out on is these guys that are on the super soft tyres. Absinthe is 23.2 seconds behind Overspeed, but Max is really bringing it together. He's right onto the back of Vanya already. Not yet in DRS range, but that can all change in just a few corners.
I entirely agree, especially considering that, of course, Vanya is on the medium tires and didn't decide to go onto the super softs, which I find a rather curious decision.
Yeah,
But
you'd have thought the mediums would have taken him to the end, you know, and he would have been a bit excessive to even go into mediums in the first place, to an extent. I think these guys have gone to the super softs and made the right decision, and it looks like it's going to work out worse for Vanya. We've only got 2 more laps after this one is finished, and that's really all it's going to take. So you're not really pushing your mediums very far at all. I think a mistake has been made. But here's Max coming up on the back of Vanya. A little bit of contact between the two. That's going to send Vanya off into the wall. Big contact between the two. Max realizes that was entirely his fault. And Vanya does have wing damage. That right end plate has left his car. So now Vanya, who is already going to be slow because of the fact he's on medium tyres, is now even slower because he doesn't have that end plate.
yeah, that's very unfortunate. I think Vanya should just go to the pits, put on a new set of super softs and go for the fastest lap. That's probably his best bet at this point.
Yeah, I think he is going there. He already moved over to the left to sort of signify that he's going there. That beep sound you heard there was Max. Oh, he's not. He's actually continuing. He's staying with Max. He's not going for any sort of pit at the minute. It's going to be another breaker zone. Oh, big lock up there. Vanny was not wanting to repay the favour back to Max for what happened earlier. Max did overtake him again afterwards, fair and square, but that was a big shunt from Max earlier, which meant that Vanya is in big trouble now, coming through ping pongs. That's going to be the area where he's likely to make the most issues, but it shouldn't really be a problem for the rest of Sector 1 and 2. Oh, here comes Vanya.
Locks up.
He's done it.
Incredible.
That was an absolutely massive move there from Vanya. There's again more contact between the two of them as Max is trying to repay the favour back of Vanya. They're really needing to get a gap if he can get one. He's going to try the outside. This is going to be a tough area to do it in. You don't really want to go too wide. You can see why, because there's contact between them, but no damage has been instigated. Max ends up on the sausage curb and Vanya will hold on to P7.
And Max is trying it around the outside again, but there's just no space in that turn.
I'm amazed that they don't have any more wing damage. Oh, I thought Max was going to end up burying it there. And Vanya's doing really well, considering the fact that he's on the slower tyres, but also considering the fact that he's continuously getting shoved by Max. He's got the damage as well. Oh, that was a really serious run wide. Luckily, he's already missing the end plate there. And he's going defensive going through this section. It means he does have to go so much slower just to make sure he can actually make the corner. Max is still pushing, still giving it everything, and Nixana's having an absolute mare. He's back into the pits again. I think that's number 4 now. In fact, I can actually check.
Number 3. It's number 3.
Yeah, number 3.
Anyway, Max is probably going to have a very good run out of these final turns, and he's gonna obviously have the air, so I assume he's gonna pass Vanya on the pit straight. But we will see.
Well, he's going for it. Here he is now. Oh, he's chosen a very, very tight line. He managed to make it work, and he's now going to break himself back over to the outside. And here comes Vanya deep into the corner, and he loses that. Just run a bit too much. But I don't think it's going to be anything more than that. I think Max will now start to run away.
That's very likely, yeah. You'd assume that Vanya has more front wing damage now, and that's probably going to be this battle over, which is a shame, because it's the last battle that was actually going on track.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got a lap and a bit to go. The remainder of this one and one more. So, I mean, although having said that, Vanya is already back on Max's rear end. That gearbox is looking very juicy to Vanya right now. He's not wanting to necessarily have contact with it, but he's definitely wanting to make a pass on it. And Max is doing a nice job of currently holding his lines, but Vanya, he must be absolutely livid given the situation he had earlier. He's really pushing to try and take P7 back from Max. And it's not looking like this race is going to be where we see Max do a shooting.
Nope, I have to agree with you. However, obviously in the sprint race, he's going to have either P1 or P2 to start from, depending on whether he finishes in P7 or P8 in this race. So that's going to be interesting. What I'm curious about, though, is are these super softs already giving up? because obviously Max was catching quite hard when he put on new super softs in the beginning,
Oh,
but now
Vanya! How did he pull that one off? Luckily, I had an amazing helicopter camera move on that one, but he literally took such a difficult line and he executed that perfectly. Now, the downside is he has really set himself up for failure, as he is now in line of Max having DRS on Vanya, and there's not really much more that Vanya can do other than actually execute a better inside overtake again back on Max. Max on his gearbox already. Slipstream very much being fully utilised with DRS now wide open. You'll start to see this gap close up a little bit as Vanya is making sure that Max does not have the inside line at all. He's holding him right to the edge here. Vanya runs deep again, and that's what's cost him a place. And this time, there'll be no recovery from Vanya. There'll be no way for him to get back into the DRS range of Max. He just can't stop the car, and I ultimately think it's down to a mixture of two things. Tyres. Oh, Max is waiting for him.
That's too nice of him. This is actually an incredible battle between these two. And I'm actually enjoying it quite a lot. So
Yeah.
what Vanya really has to do now is to stick behind Max until the final straight. Because he really wants the DRS and he doesn't want Max to have the DRS, obviously. Because otherwise, Max might just win it anyway.
Yeah, and the thing to remember though is that on this track, yes, DRS is quite a way back, and slipstream is really quite huge on this, but it ultimately comes.
Default wins the race, obviously, 7 seconds in front of Racebug, who's gonna come in second, and Dark Demise in third. But yeah, please go on.
Yeah, I was also just thinking actually whilst you were talking about that, there's not been any penalties issued to anybody. I mean, despite the fact that Niksana had a lot of wing issues and has had to pit 3 times, he's also not really out of the points. He will be sat P1 when it comes to the sprint race. Something to keep an eye on though. Yeah, what I was saying was, as you come towards ping pong, yeah, look, now Max has done the exact same thing again. Max has, that has been the nail in the coffin. Max now is going to have to really seriously push hard as we come through the final area of the track. He let Vanya through so he could get the DRS on Vanya. Vanya didn't make a mistake. Max got a little too heavy on the accelerator, and now you're going to see Max really committing. Slowly but surely reeling Vanya in again. Vanya is shaking the slipstream. It's the only way he's going to hold him back, but the DRS wing is wide open. It's going to be close as we come towards the finish straight. Vanya has now lost the place to Max, and Max manages to bring back the P7, and Vanya will take a solid 8th place.
That obviously means that Vanya is going to have the sprint race pole position once more. Same thing as last week. Finishes in P8, gets a start from P1 in the sprint race. So maybe this time he'll actually be able to convert that into a race win.
Yeah, it'd be good. I'd like to see these bottom drivers in that late race anyway, because I mean the thing is, having raced with a few of these drivers on track in F1 cars and in other races overall, they are really quite quick drivers and they are actually really quite consistent. But F2 cars are a whole different beast of car. They have so much extra weight. They perform in such a different manner. You can't just chuck it into a corner and expect to be able to just power steer out of it. It's going to be a tough nonetheless, but here is your rundown after the feature race. So, Default, with a really solid performance, takes the race win. That's 25 points in his pocket with Racebug in P2. Darkdemise takes P3 with Piloto in 4th. Absinthe takes 5th. Overspeed in 6th with Max. Vanya in 7th and 8th. And Niksana will take 9th, and the only DNF was Noosa.
Not very surprising.
Who got the fastest lap? Oh, Max did. So Max gets the extra 2 points as well. So he's actually tied with Overspeed for P6. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be all over yet, because we do still have the sprint race. Still tons of opportunity for this to change up a little bit. And I was looking again like another dry race.
That's great, because I think we're going to see much better racing in the dry than we would in the wet. Overall, now after the feature race, obviously Default is going to lead this whole points table for this weekend. And Racebug is like 3 points behind him. So if Racebug wants to win the weekend as a whole, he's going to have to basically win the race.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a hard task, starting from P7 on the grid. But there's going to be a lot of carnage again. I'm quite sure about that. Especially considering that in the past 3 weeks, the sprint race was always the race where everyone was just going very aggressively in trying to gain places as quickly as possible. While the feature race was more tame.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally living up to the fact of, you're only doing about 5 or 6 laps depending on the track. And that ultimately comes down to, I could easily go onto the softest compound tyres. Like you can see now, all but Nixana have gone onto the super soft tyre. Vanya is going to be sat in P1 with Max right behind him in P2. And we saw what happened in the feature race where Max was chasing Vanya down hard. Vanya was doing really well to close back up on him, especially considering the situations he was having with the damage that was again caused by Max. But overall, it's looking good, it's looking promising, and fingers crossed this continues throughout.
And you know what the great thing about the reverse grid is, and Max finishing at 7, Vanya and 8? We get to see the 2 fight again.
Yeah, exactly, and it's going to be non-stop. And we also get to see Default, who had exceptional pace throughout the entirety of that feature race. He's going to be having to pass people on a track where the only real overtaking opportunities are going from the final corner up towards turn 1 on the home straight, and then from turn 2 to turn 3. So it's really quite a rough area for Default to need to do the passes, but if anyone could do it, I think it's him. It's really going to be down to how does he keep his wing intact.
And what I'm also very interested to see is that how the super softs are gonna fare, because in the feature race just now we saw that obviously Max was in super softs compared to Vanya's mediums, but after 3 or 4 laps, Max just wasn't able to pull away. He was slower than Vanya, even though Vanya even had wing damage. So maybe Nixana's call to go into mediums isn't actually a bad thing.
Yep, might not be. Right, we'll keep an eye out and see. I mean, the thing is, Nixana really needs to just keep himself together, really. A lot of the issues he was having was his fault. Just kept having a lot of wing issues, wing being chucked into the bin left, right, and centre. But yeah, it's good to see that the drivers are doing well. I want to see more from Nixana, but, as it stands, it's not like we're going to see too much. Alright, here we go. We are lining up for the final run here in the F2 cars. It's going to be a really exciting race overall. Do you want to check out a P3 top 3 prediction really quick? Oh, never mind. We haven't got time for that, Raggy. Stop talking. It's time. Lights are on. We're about to go underway, and we're going to see if Vanya can hold Max away in the run-up to turn 1. Very delayed start, but we are now finally away. Vanya's had a really solid start. Look how far he's pulled away already. He's absolutely shot off, and we're seeing mistakes being made as Overspeeders ran a little bit hot on the rears, and that's caused him to fall down a fair few places. He's now down into P7. Needs to make sure it stays nice and tidy as Overspeed's going deep in towards Default there. Default's managed to keep himself out of trouble as well, and he's now up into P6. So the chase is on, but still, Vanya is leading this Grand Prix.
But Max has already managed to catch up again, because we saw Vanya pull away. Oh, that's someone spinning in the background, and it's Overspeed. Out of turn 3, probably too hard on the accelerator. And he just spun, and that's going to set him back quite a bit.
I mean, the good thing is, though, is he's kept himself intact in terms of wing damage. He doesn't have any. So that's good to see, but we are still keeping very firm eyes locked on the front of the grid as, again, Max is breathing all over the neck of Vanya. It's not going to change anytime soon. It's good to see. Oh, I thought he was going to end up checking himself into the wall there, but no. We are staying 1, 2, and 3. We're seeing more issues. I think that's Nixana.
Well, the medium's call wasn't the greatest after all. He was struggling in the beginning already, and, well, that's his race pretty much over now.
Yeah, that wing is absolutely destroyed. He doesn't have it anymore. That is him taking a trip back to the pits, but at least he'll be able to go on to the Super Softs and really commit to the rest of this Grand Prix. Racebug there is still chasing these as it stands. This 4-way battle. I mean, you got Piloto on the back of this. He's a bit further back, but he's still there and still can benefit from DRS. And there's the first penalty of the entire weekend. The entire F2 hasn't changed at all. We are seeing now Max is going to be slipstreaming past Vanya now. He takes race lead. Vanya is now right back on the rear of his car again. And whilst we're not going to be seeing an overtake unless he goes for a send it move down the inside, he's looking for it. He is going to send it, but we saw what happened in the previous race. He made so many mistakes. Niksana's retired from this Grand Prix, and now you've got Absinthe coming down the inside of it, going in towards turn 2. Absinthe has now gained himself that place. Vanier will need to really commit if he wants to bring himself back, but he keeps committing in the wrong place on the track. He keeps looking for an inside line in turn 1. But he needs to realise that whilst it is an opportunity to do, it is very difficult to execute, especially in these F2 cars.
Well, yeah, at least he gets an A for effort, right?
Yeah.
He did try multiple times. But, you know, the race, there's still like 3.5 laps at least to go. And as soon as DRS comes in, the pit straight is going to be even more interesting. Especially considering that we still have like 5 to 6 cars in the leading group. So definitely P1 is up for grabs for all of these.
Racebook just ran a bit deep into the back of Vanier there. Vanier didn't really get much more than a little tickle there, but it was enough to give him a little warning to remind him that Racebook is right there. But default is P5 and is right on the back of this. With DRS activating next lap, we could see some positions gained.
Piloto Payo put his car onto the wall out of caster section, lost out quite a bit. So we're down to 5 people fighting for the race win right now. And Default and Racebug are both in the group, essentially. Of course, the 2 people who are most likely to win this weekend.
May indeed.
Event.
Do you reckon we're going to see Max do a shoey?
Well, I mean, he did say he would do it, so there's no backing down now, is there?
Well, no, but I mean, do you reckon we're going to see him actually get the win is more what I was meaning. Max is well known for losing it into the wall, and Castle is a wall you could very easily lose it in.
3 wide in the back, and Vanya's dropping down quite excessively now, but he's trying to dive onto the inside again. Clips the wall on the inside, and that looks like his left end plate is gone, and I don't think he's going to be fighting for the win for much longer. So we're down to 4 people. Mainly the 2 in the front, of course, Max and Absinthe. And Absinthe is going for a move now with DRS on lap 3, obviously. Max covering the inside. Absinthe on the switchback. Gets a very good exit and it's very, very close.
Oh, they're touching wheels, but they have kept each other out of the wall and out of damage and out of danger. But we are seeing them really come into everything, and Absinthe has done what was needed to get himself into race lead position. The difficulty now is that he has got a very raging Max behind him, absolutely charging to try and pull that position back from him. And he will go for gaps where in areas you don't necessarily think you can find one, but he will go for it.
He's pretty much known for that, isn't he? He really wants that shoey. I'm kind of surprised, to be fair. However, what happened while you were talking about the fight for the lead? Racebug had a big off, and I think he has front wing damage. He's in P7, and that's... he doesn't have front wing damage, but he's in P7. And that's quite likely his event win gone, with Default solidly in P3 and kind of still trying to catch up to P1 and P2.
Yep, indeed. Right, Default, 1.6 seconds now. He's just brought that down to 10th from 1.7. He's already closing up on these 2, and the fact that these 2 keep scrapping does mean that Default has the opportunity to catch up and potentially take the race win away from him. Max is just a bit too far back to really get the anything more than just... Oh, he's also lagged back a bit there. He's lost out a fair amount of time there. He's going to be able to use DRS to close up on Absinthe, but that's all it's going to be. It's not going to be anything further than that, as Vanier and Piloto are also battling. Piloto managed to get past him, looking for an inside line again. And we keep seeing this from Vanier, and you'd have thought he might have learned from the previous attempts. It's not working out for you, sir. You need to just try and just use the slipstream, use the DRS, get a better exit out of the corners before ping pong. If you don't, and then you're going to have to just settle with the fact that you're going to be slower.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And now Dark Demise is obviously catching up to Venya and Pilar Paya. On the other hand, Default is also massively catching up to Max in P2, and I think these 2 might have quite an interesting battle in the remaining 1.5 laps. Max lagging back again. You have to wonder, is that Venya maybe DDoSing him for the feature race? One can only wonder. That's
hopefully
pretty much gifted Default. P2, oh, did it? Max sliding massively, yeah. Default up to P2.
Oh, Oh, Max is trying to go around the outside of him in the exit of Castle. This is going to be a really tough line for these two to do, and Max has managed to get in place, but Default has a better run out of the corner. Max trying to squeeze Default to the inside. It's not going to work out for him, and that's why you're seeing the way that they are right now, but it's almost contact between the two of them, the way that they were so close together. Max still trying to fight with Default in any opportunity he can get, but the longer this battle goes on, the harder it's going to be for Default to catch up to race leader, although he doesn't necessarily need to, as it stands, Default will be the weekend winner.
Yellow flag in sector 1 is due to I don't know who. Let's go back to the front. Default obviously now within didn't manage to get Max out of his DRS window. And, you know, I'd be surprised if Max doesn't go for a move at the latest in front of, or before, right before turn 3.
Right here, this is where he's going for it. He's made a big mistake there. Got on the curb, lost the car, and ran seriously wide, but managed to drift it just enough to keep himself out of the wall. Default will stay P2. Max has really cooked those rears somehow. He's sliding the car non-stop. He needs to focus on keeping it together. He's now outside of the DRS range of Default. I mean, he got DRS because of where the activation line was when he started sliding, but the exit of turn 2 was not ideal for him, and you can see he's really struggling for grip in that car. Piloto gains so much time now. Max is going to have to turn on ultra defensive mode. He's going to need to get his big shield out and just protect himself from the cars behind. But Piloto is wanting to gain that place. He's wanting to get that third step of the podium, and it potentially could happen.
Piloto Paya really has to stick with him, but you know, I'd be surprised if Max doesn't let Piloto go before the start-finish straight in order to get the DS once more. It worked against Vanier in the feature race, obviously. That being said, I'm surprised that Max actually went for a move into turn 1. You'd think he would have learned, and now he's just drifting all over the place.
Oh.
You'd think he would have learned from Vanier, obviously, in turn 1, but he didn't.
No.
And he made the same mistake.
Oh, Dactymize actually right here with this battle as well. There was a big squeeze there between Dactymize and Piloto. There was almost a moment where Piloto got put into the wall. It was very tight, but they two managed to keep it together as Dactymize just loses the back end and he goes back in the trap. Big crash there. That was Racebug just getting caught by Dactymize, just reversing into the line of Racebug. So a 3-second time penalty has been issued to Dactymize due to that collision. I think that's fair, considering how much that would have destroyed Racebug's wing at least. I think it should have been a little bit more severe than that. But yeah, Racebug is involved in that and unfortunately loses the damage. It is a final lap actually, and we are going to see Dark Demise is going to retake Racebug. In my opinion, he should probably give it back, but he's already got the penalty, so it doesn't really matter too much. But Absinthe will take the win here in the sprint race with Default in second. Piloto takes the third step. Max takes fourth. Vania takes fifth. Racebug gains that position back on Dactymize due to that penalty that he got for a collision. Dactymize takes 7th. Overspeed takes 8th. And our only DNFer was Nixana.
What happened to Nusa? Do you have any update on him? Did he actually drive? Or is it just, did he stay in the pits for you as well?
I think he had pedal issues. He's had pedal issues for a little while. And I think his pedal issues have come back from what I can tell. But that is all I have, sadly, on that one. I'm not quite sure exactly what it was, but I'm wanting to see. I'm just waiting for Overspeed to cross the line. He's actually really quite far way back. He's coming through now. Still got his wing intact though, so nice little slide. This has been a really good race. I didn't actually, I mean, I need to apologize in advance, but I don't know why I didn't predict Absinthe to take the win. His performance was really good. He was really delivering exactly what was needed, but it just seems like he was going to be a fourth place runner. And just to this feature race, this sprint race, he has absolutely delivered a really solid performance. I think that puts him P2 overall. We'll get the full confirmation once Overspeed has crossed the line. Oh, wow, okay. Or it bins it into the pit wall.
Well, he just decided to end his life, but that's fair enough, because the race was over anyway, and he was just sitting in P8.
Yep. So there they are on the podium. Very well deserved there for Absinthe. Takes a very solid first place finish. And we'll go have a look now at the overall weekend results. So Default is the overall weekend winner, with Absinthe taking a solid P2, 1 point ahead of Racebug, who finishes in third place. Piloto takes 4th, with Dactymize in 5th. Max takes 6th, with Vania in 7th. Overspeed takes 8th, and Nixana takes 9th. Nusa would be in 10th, but obviously didn't take part in the second race, therefore doesn't get any points. So that is it for the F2 race. We're now going to go to a short break as we prepare for our F1 race. Hope you are all excited as I am. Hopefully F2 race has just watered your taste buds just a little bit. But we'll see you shortly after this little break.